Welcome to this episode of The Human Condition Philosophical Inquiries. Today, we ask a timeless and unsettling question: how much of our lives do we truly control? Humans crave the sense of mastery, the belief that we are authors of our own story. Yet, history, philosophy, and religion suggest that this control may be far more limited than we imagine. From the unpredictability of nature to the randomness of chance encounters, much of life unfolds beyond our will. We will explore this dilemma through philosophy, theology, literature, and psychology. Can we ever be the masters of our fate, or are we simply navigating currents far stronger than us? Some argue that our sense of control is necessary for motivation, while others see it as a dangerous illusion. We will examine fate, free will, randomness, and the paradox of agency. This journey is not meant to dishearten, but to invite humility and reflection. By the end, you may not find a definitive answer, but you will gain a deeper appreciation of the fragile balance between freedom and inevitability. Our need for control begins with survival. From early humans mastering fire and tools, to modern life where we schedule, plan, and strategize, control gives us the illusion of security. Psychologists tell us that predictability reduces anxiety. When life feels ordered, we feel safer, even if the order is fragile. But the truth is, control is rarely absolute. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we can only govern our thoughts and actions, not external events. His wisdom reminds us that control is often a matter of perception. Buddhism also emphasizes this, teaching that clinging to permanence or control leads to suffering. In Christianity, the Lord's Prayer asks, "Thy will be done," acknowledging a surrender beyond human authority. Islam emphasizes Insha'Allah, if God wills it, as a reminder of divine sovereignty over human plans. Even in literature, we see characters haunted by their inability to steer their lives. Think of Macbeth's futile attempts to grasp his destiny. Yet, despite centuries of reminders, humans cling to control because it reassures us. It convinces us that tomorrow will align with our desires. But life does not work that way. A single accident, an unforeseen tragedy, or even an unexpected blessing can alter our path forever. The human brain, however, resists this randomness. We construct stories, attributing cause and reason because chaos feels unbearable. This tension between our need for certainty and life's unpredictability is at the heart of the illusion of control. And so we ask, is this illusion harmful self-deception or a vital tool for meaning and motivation? Philosophy has long wrestled with the question of free will. Determinists argue that every choice we make is the result of prior causes, stretching back infinitely. In this view, we are products of genetics, environment, and circumstance, not sovereign agents. Thinkers like Baruch Spinoza insisted that freedom is an illusion, for even our desires arise from prior conditions. Yet others, like Jean-Paul Sartre, proclaimed radical freedom, arguing that humans are condemned to be free, forever responsible for choosing. This clash between determinism and existentialism shapes much of modern debate on control. The compatibilist view, taken by philosophers like David Hume, suggests a middle ground, that freedom can coexist with determinism, so long as freedom is defined as acting in accordance with one's desires, even if those desires have prior causes. Literature echoes these debates. Hamlet's famous paralysis reflects the crushing burden of free will and uncertainty. Religious traditions weigh in as well. Hindu philosophy speaks of karma, where actions are shaped by past deeds, yet new actions still forge future paths. Christianity balances free will with divine providence, raising the question of whether God's omniscience limits our choices. Buddhism's teaching of dependent origination reminds us that nothing arises independently. Everything is conditioned. Yet, even with these frameworks, the mystery persists. Neuroscience now complicates matters, suggesting our brain often decides milliseconds before our conscious mind believes it has. Are we then puppets of biology, tricked into believing we steer? Or is the very feeling of choice the essence of human dignity? The illusion of control here becomes not just about fate, but about the fundamental architecture of freedom itself. Life is filled with randomness. The family we are born into, the era of history we inhabit, the culture that shapes us, all are accidents of chance. We do not choose our starting point, yet it defines much of what follows. Ancient Greeks acknowledged this with the concept of Tyche, the goddess of fortune, who could bless or ruin lives arbitrarily. Shakespeare echoed this in King Lear, lamenting humanity as flies to wanton boys, tossed about by careless fate. Science, too, acknowledges chaos. Quantum mechanics reveals a universe infused with unpredictability at its core. Evolutionary biology shows that random mutations, unplanned, unchosen, shape the trajectory of life on Earth. The weather that ruins a harvest, the accident that changes a life's direction, or the stranger we meet by chance who becomes pivotal, all testify to randomness. Yet we resist this truth. We invent superstitions, rituals, and narratives to explain chaos. Probability and statistics help us manage chance, but never eliminate it. Religions often frame randomness as divine will rather than pure accident. In Christianity, this might be seen as God's mysterious providence. In Islam, as part of Qadar, destiny shaped by Allah. In Taoism, the flow of the Tao accepts randomness as the natural unfolding of harmony. The illusion of control here arises in our efforts to impose order on the inherently unpredictable. Yet perhaps this resistance blinds us to the wonder of uncertainty, for it is randomness that allows surprise, novelty, and serendipity to enrich our existence. Without it, life might be unbearably predictable, stripped of discovery. Religions worldwide wrestle with the balance of control. In Christianity, the tension lies between free will and God's omniscience. If God knows all outcomes, can humans truly choose? St. Augustine argued that divine foreknowledge does not negate human choice, yet the paradox endures. Islam offers a nuanced perspective through qadar, the belief that all events occur by God's decree, yet humans are still responsible for their actions. Hinduism frames destiny through karma, suggesting that past deeds condition present realities, but spiritual growth can alter future outcomes. Buddhism similarly teaches that suffering arises when we cling to control over what is impermanent, urging instead acceptance of the unfolding of conditions. Judaism's prophets often depict humans striving against God's will, with varying degrees of submission or resistance. Taoism dissolves the dichotomy altogether, urging harmony with the Tao, the flow of the universe, rather than domination over it. Literature mirrors these religious struggles. Oedipus attempts to escape prophecy only to fulfill it, while Milton's Satan declares, "Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven," as a defiance of divine control. These stories remind us of the limits of agency in the face of larger forces. Religion, at its core, both reassures and unsettles, offering frameworks for why life unfolds as it does. Whether surrendering to divine providence or striving for liberation, the role of human control remains contested. This ambiguity may be precisely the point. Control is both a gift and a limit, something to exercise wisely while remembering it is never absolute. Psychology reveals just how much humans rely on illusions of control. Studies show that people often believe they can influence outcomes governed entirely by chance, rolling dice harder when hoping for higher numbers, or blowing on cards in a game. These small rituals betray our yearning for agency. Ellen Langer's famous studies on the illusion of control showed that people overestimate their influence in random events. This belief, while false, can sometimes be beneficial, boosting confidence and persistence, but it can also be dangerous, leading to gambling, magical thinking, or denial of reality. Control beliefs vary across cultures. Some emphasize personal mastery, while others stress collective fate. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, noted that even in the most uncontrollable circumstances, such as concentration camps, humans still retain control over their attitude and response. This echoes Epictetus's Stoic teaching that true control lies in our inner life, not external events. Yet even attitudes are shaped by biology, upbringing, and context. Cognitive biases like hindsight bias and confirmation bias further trick us into believing we understand causes after the fact. Religions, too, weave psychological comfort through ritual and prayer, granting a sense of order amid chaos. Literature often dramatizes the madness that ensues when control is stripped away. Think of King Lear's descent into despair when his authority unravels. The psychology of control thus demonstrates our paradox. We need illusions to function, yet those illusions can deceive us. Perhaps the healthiest stance is to embrace them lightly, knowing they are fragile but sometimes necessary. This humility may guard us against despair while keeping us honest about life's unpredictability. Literature often mirrors humanity's struggle with control. From Greek tragedies to modern novels, the theme recurs. Characters strive against forces beyond them. Oedipus is warned of his fate, yet his very attempts to escape it ensure its fulfillment. Shakespeare's Macbeth seeks control through prophecy and murder, but his obsession destroys him. Dostoevsky's characters wrestle with freedom, guilt, and divine justice, asking whether choice is ever fully theirs. In contrast, modernist works often depict fragmented realities where agency is elusive, reflecting the uncertainty of a chaotic world. Albert Camus' The Stranger highlights indifference, a universe that does not bend to human will. Literature provides both comfort and discomfort by staging the eternal clash between freedom and destiny. Religious texts are also literary. Job's suffering reminds us of limits, while Ecclesiastes insists, time and chance happen to them all. These stories endure because they resonate with our lived experience. They capture the irony of human striving. We write our narratives, but often within frames not of our choosing. They warn us of hubris, as in Frankenstein, and yet inspire us with resilience, as in Jane Eyre. Stories of resistance affirm the dignity of struggle, even when outcomes are uncertain. In epics, myths, and novels, humans are rarely omnipotent. Instead, they are fragile beings yearning for mastery. Literature thus becomes both a mirror and a guide. It reflects our illusions of control, but also helps us wrestle with them imaginatively. By entering these stories, we glimpse ourselves, learning to live with limits and possibilities alike. Science is often celebrated as humanity's great tool of control. By understanding the natural world, we harness its forces, electricity, medicine, technology. Yet science also humbles us. For every discovery that increases control, new mysteries appear. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle shows that at the quantum level, precision has limits. Chaos theory reveals that small variations can create unpredictable outcomes, as in weather patterns. Climate science reminds us that even advanced models cannot foresee every detail of future change. Biology shows that random mutations, not careful design, drive evolution. Astronomy confronts us with a vast, expanding cosmos where our control is negligible. Neuroscience suggests our very decisions may be shaped before conscious awareness. Each frontier of science reveals boundaries. Yet these boundaries do not negate progress, they contextualize it. Science teaches us humility. Control is partial, temporary, and conditional. History shows that scientific arrogance can be dangerous, as when technology is misused. But it also reveals that acknowledging uncertainty fosters resilience. In science, control is never total mastery, but an ongoing dialogue with mystery. This truth mirrors the human condition, striving for order while learning to live with limits. Control is not just personal, it is social. Power structures shape who holds control and who is controlled. Governments, corporations, religions, and institutions all create systems that manage human lives. Michel Foucault argued that power operates not only through force, but through subtle forms of discipline, surveillance, norms, and expectations. George Orwell's 1984 dramatizes a world where control pervades thought itself, yet resistance movements remind us that no system is absolute. History is filled with revolutions where the oppressed seized agency against all odds. Social contracts, as described by philosophers like Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, reflect humanity's attempt to balance order with freedom. Control in society often depends on consent, even if reluctant. Propaganda, education, and culture all shape what people believe they can control. Technology complicates this. Social media both empowers voices and manipulates attention. Religion, too, has shaped power, sometimes liberating, sometimes suppressing. The illusion of control in society is that individuals often feel free while their choices are subtly guided. Yet the reverse is also true. Even in oppressive systems, small acts of resistance create ripples of change. Society thus becomes a stage for the drama of control, where human dignity and oppression constantly collide. Art offers a unique lens on control. Some artists meticulously plan, structuring every line and color. Others surrender, allowing improvisation and accident to shape their work. Abstract expressionists like Jackson Pollock embraced chance, dripping paint in uncontrolled patterns. Zen calligraphy emphasizes spontaneity, where the brushstroke reflects the present moment. Music, too, reveals this tension, composed symphonies versus improvised jazz. In surrender, beauty emerges. Many artists testify that their best work comes when they stop trying to dominate and instead collaborate with the medium. This reflects a paradox. Control in art often comes from knowing when to release control. Religious art often reflects divine inspiration, as though the artist is a vessel rather than the master. Literature, too, sometimes feels written through the author rather than by them. For audiences, art often invites surrender as well. A tragedy moves us when we stop resisting its sadness. A painting grips us when we allow ourselves to be immersed. Art reminds us that life itself may require this surrender. Control is not always strength. Sometimes letting go opens us to deeper truths. The paradox of agency is that we are both free and bound. We make choices, yet never in a vacuum. Our bodies, cultures, histories, and environments frame our options. A person may choose their career, but not the era or conditions in which that choice arises. Freedom exists, but always within limits. Philosophers call this situated freedom, a balance of choice and constraint. Even the act of rebellion is shaped by the system it resists. Literature dramatizes this paradox. Characters like Hamlet or Antigone face choices, yet within tragic boundaries. Religion echoes it. Free will coexists with destiny in many traditions. Psychology affirms it. People act freely but under powerful unconscious influences. Society reflects it. Our decisions ripple within structures of power. Science enforces it. We act freely within natural laws we cannot break. This paradox need not discourage us. Instead, it deepens our appreciation for what freedom really is. Agency is not absolute power, but meaningful action within constraints. This makes each act precious, precisely because it is limited. Philosophy and religion offer enduring lessons on control. Stoicism teaches us to focus only on what we can govern, our judgments and actions. Epictetus reminds us that control over the external is an illusion, but mastery of the inner life is true freedom. Buddhism echoes this wisdom, urging us to release attachment to permanence. Christianity balances free will with surrender, teaching that humility before God liberates us from anxiety. Islam insists on both striving and submission, honoring human responsibility while affirming divine will. Taoism rejects the struggle, teaching harmony with the flow of the Tao. Hinduism speaks of karma and liberation, inviting us to rise above cycles of cause and effect. Judaism reminds us of covenant, a partnership between divine will and human choice. These traditions differ in language, but converge in wisdom. Control is partial, surrender essential. Modern philosophy continues this dialogue. Existentialists urge us to embrace freedom even when it terrifies. Determinists remind us of limits, while pragmatists encourage balance. Together, philosophy and religion remind us that the illusion of control need not be destructive. It can be reframed as humility, resilience, and openness. Psychology offers tools to live with the illusion of control. Cognitive behavioral therapy teaches us to identify where we have influence and where we do not. Mindfulness practices encourage acceptance of uncertainty. Viktor Frankl emphasized that attitude is the last freedom, even in unbearable situations. Research shows that resilience often comes not from control, but from adaptability. Gratitude shifts focus from what is lost to what is present. Rituals, while sometimes illusions, can also ground us. Self-compassion helps us endure when control collapses. Psychological flexibility, adjusting rather than rigidly resisting, builds strength. These practices echo ancient wisdom, yet are confirmed by modern science. They invite us to live with humility, courage, and creativity. They remind us that peace does not require mastery. Instead, it arises when we accept the limits of mastery. This does not mean passivity, but wise engagement. It means choosing battles, releasing illusions, and savoring what is within reach. Psychology thus offers not escape, but clarity. Control is fragile, yet peace is possible. Embracing uncertainty may be the deepest lesson of all. Life resists full control, yet we can still flourish. To embrace uncertainty is not to give up, but to accept life as it comes. It is to trade fear for curiosity, resistance for openness. Philosophers, poets, and mystics all testify to this wisdom. Rainer Maria Rilke urged us to live the questions, trusting that answers unfold with time. Modern psychology supports this, showing that tolerating ambiguity reduces anxiety. Science demonstrates that uncertainty is built into the fabric of reality. Religion reframes uncertainty as faith, trust in what lies beyond us. Literature often portrays those who thrive not by mastering, but by adapting. Embracing uncertainty frees us from the tyranny of perfection. It allows us to live lightly, to risk, to love, to create. It transforms fragility into possibility. This does not mean certainty disappears. It means we hold it loosely. Life becomes an adventure, not a problem to solve. The illusion of control then becomes less a deception and more a reminder that we are finite beings in an infinite world, called to live with both courage and humility. This slide offers resources for anyone wishing to reflect further on the question of control and human agency. Let's start with the books. Ernest Becker's The Denial of Death examines how our awareness of mortality drives us to seek control and meaning. His argument that much of culture is an elaborate defense against vulnerability forces us to see control in a broader existential context. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's Flow looks at the psychology of optimal experience. It reminds us that while we cannot control everything around us, we can cultivate states of deep engagement where our sense of agency and mastery flourishes. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning is a cornerstone text, showing that even under the most oppressive conditions, we retain the inner freedom to interpret and find meaning in our lives. Paul Tillich's The Courage to Be brings theology and philosophy together to argue that courage arises when we face the anxieties of existence, our lack of control among them, with faith and resilience. Finally, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations offers timeless Stoic wisdom, emphasizing that while external events are often outside our control, our responses and attitudes remain our own. Moving to podcasts, Stephen West's Philosophize This provides approachable yet deep philosophical discussions, with episodes directly tackling determinism, free will, and human choice. Laurie Santos's The Happiness Lab introduces scientific and psychological insights into well-being, many of which connect to our perceptions of agency and control over our daily lives. Krista Tippett's On Being brings a spiritual and humanistic lens, often featuring conversations with thinkers who balance the tension between surrender and striving, fate and freedom. Finally, for digital learners, the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and the Internet. Encyclopedia of Philosophy offer detailed and scholarly overviews of the free will debate, agency, determinism, and related ethical questions. They are indispensable for anyone wanting rigorous academic grounding. The Greater Good Science Center, based at UC Berkeley, complements these philosophical resources with psychological and social research on human flourishing. Its articles often address practical ways of rethinking control. How much is within us, and how much depends on connection with others? Together, these books, podcasts, and websites cover existential, psychological, theological, and practical perspectives. Exploring them will deepen your understanding and broaden your reflection on how much of our lives we can truly direct. We have asked whether our sense of control is real or an illusion. We have seen how philosophy, religion, psychology, science, and art all wrestle with this question. We have discovered that control is always partial, never complete. Yet within those limits lies freedom, meaning, and beauty. The illusion of control may deceive us, but it also sustains us. It drives us to act, to build, to dream. And when it shatters, we learn resilience. We learn that surrender can be strength. We learn that uncertainty is not only fearsome, but fertile. Perhaps the lesson is not to cling or to deny, but to hold control lightly, to live boldly yet humbly, to find joy not in mastery, but in participation, to walk the path without knowing every turn, and to trust that, even without full control, life is worth living with courage and wonder.